Hey guys, Lord Sora here. We're back with another video. This time we're going to be talking about the Summoner Minion Necromancer build both for PvP and PvE. This is not going to be a full-blown build guide because there's a lot I still want to test and figure out that I could not finish testing during PTR, but hopefully this will give some of you an idea what I have in mind going into Season 4 when it comes to PvPing with a minion build. In fact, I think I'm going to be leveling with a minion build in PvE as well, so stay tuned. I will be releasing a full-blown summoner build guide for both PvE and PvP very soon. Starting the video here in the background with a gameplay example from PTR, testing versus Bowie. It is a great test because I know he was geared for PvP, and you can sort of tell that I'm not geared at all. That I have a low attack speed, as well as you can see how slow I'm running. But even then, I was able to get my golem to do these crazy one-shots, and this was without having any major investment into my minions from the gear. So I had no golem mastery, no mage mastery, none of that. So just testing out to see how the build feels, and even then, he was actually pumping a lot of damage. Before you ask, is this going to be better than Shadow Wave build in PvP? I am not sure. Initially, I do not think so because minions, you will still have too many counters, and it's almost never really a good idea to give your opponent a mob density, and that's what you do when you play with minions. You are running with minions and you give mob density to your opponent, which they get cooldown reduction, they get momentum stacks, more DR, so on and so forth. List goes on. But I will still not be surprised there will be some really good minion PvP builds in Season 4. I used to, way back in Season 0, was maining as a summoner build actually. That was my first love with this game. I played the Diablo 4, so the summoner playstyle immediately wanted to adapt it. And it was a really good build in Season 0. And after the barrier changes, it lost significant amount of survivability. That should not be an issue right now, but one thing that we had back in the day, we were able to run a little bit amount of thorns, and we could get crazy amount of cooldown reduction from our Decryptify procs. So our minions will help us so much to stay in mist form. That is no longer the case. It has been patched in this most recent patch, I believe, that Decryptify does not proc from thorns anymore, which is a big loss actually. I hope that is a bug, or I don't know if it was never intended, but if it was, now is the actual change. We will yet to see. We'll see in the upcoming patches, I guess. Alrighty, with that being said, let's jump into the gear ideas and how I'm going to approach building this character. So the main idea with this build is that I want to be able to spam Army of the Dead as much as possible, mainly because of unyielding commander aspect. In the video where you see those crazy one-shots, most of them happens when I pop Army of the Dead. In the tooltip it shows an additive sign, but I think it's an UI bug. It actually works as a multiplicative damage. So how are we going to do that? First, we're going to be getting an ultimate CDR affixes, tempering options, to put on our gear, and we're going to be utilizing the fast blood aspect, which also got a significant buff. It's 2.5 seconds now, which before it was 1.5 seconds. Idea is that we're going to be generating so many corpses with this build, and we're going to be automatically consuming them non-stop using Sacrilegious Ring, and our Embalmer aspect will generate tons of blood orbs. And if we can spam Army of the Dead non-stop, this is going to work like a machine with a bunch of corpses, auto-consume, blood orbs, more healing, more survivability, and boom, Army of the Dead back, and rinse and repeat while our minions doing the dirty work for us. One problem with minions will still be keeping them alive in PvP, which another great benefit of Army of the Dead is Unyielding Commander will grant really significant damage reduction to our minions. Another cool interaction with this build is that while Sacrilegious Ring auto-consuming corpses, it is considered as an attack, which will reduce our evade cooldown reduction, synergizing with these boots with Metamorphosis and keeping us unstoppable majority of the fight. I believe it is going to work very well since we can just kite and focus on surviving without having to really cast anything. It's going to be interesting, a fun playstyle, at least for a while until we get bored. Because It's kind of gonna be cheese if it works really well, because we just won't have to do anything pretty much. Just stay in mist form, focus on surviving, pick up blood orbs here and there, and just use our metamorphosis and hope that our minions do the work for us. Let's talk about the Book of the Dead. As our skeletons, I'm going to be running Reapers. I think it's a no-brainer here. It's going to be reducing cooldown even more. We really won't need our Reapers to create corpses for us, since our goal is to just spam Army of the Dead back to back, and that will give us plenty of corpses. As our mages, going to be using Shadow Mages, and we'll take the multiplier option here. It does not say your minions in the tooltip, but I believe this is also applies to our minions damage, so a really good option here in my opinion. I'm going to be testing this out to make sure when the season goes live. Golem, I actually had the most success with Bone Golem. Also granted vulnerability uptime in PvP as well, and due to how it works. And it actually lands its damage a lot more often than other Golem abilities. Whenever I run Blood Golem or Iron Golem, I kept missing the burst and had a longer cooldown. But with Bone Golem, all it needs to do for enemy to attack, and it will attack back every 4 seconds, and it did this huge damage that you get to see in the video as well. I know overall Blood Golem I think is more damage, where I still need to test it out a bit more, but initially the way it worked in PvP, Bone Golem worked better for me. One, for keeping the opponent vulnerable, and I did not have to rely on the cooldown to do my big damage. I was able to do my burst damage from the golem a lot more often. I want to quickly go over the rest of my gear here. We're having the extra minions on the helmet, just so we can have more offensive option that we can put on other places. I know a lot of people like to put this aspect on the amulet. I want to put it on the helmet so I save more offensive aspect slots that I can get. I can put on the amulet or other places that I can use offensive aspect. On the chest, we're running the damage reduction, hardened bones. I think it's no-brainer here. We are running the attack speed on our glows. I know there's 2 caps for attack speed. One is more related to your gear, where you get from your gear. Other one is and then skills, I believe. Another one is more related to getting your attack speed from the aspects and some other sources. There are some guides out there about this one. I have been reading and trying to catch up with it. I haven't get to test it myself, but once I release the full-blown build planner, I'm gonna be obviously incorporating those attack speed caps so we get to min-max as much as possible. I talked about this already. Embalmer, we're running on the pants, so we could consume the corpse. We generate a blood orb. So kind of similar to how we played our build, PvP build in Season 3. So it's going to be very similar playstyle. Instead of pets, we're going to have minions this time. Metamorphosis, I am showing maximum evade charges here. That should be not the case. We'll use the actually attacks reduced to evade cooldown. That's what gonna be our go-to choice, because I have already mentioned the sacrilegious ring. Whenever it consumes corpses, it actually considers as an attack, so it reduces the cooldown even more. On our weapon, we're gonna put Army of the Dead here. Our goal is to keep this as active as possible. It's pumping as much as possible, so we're getting this 200% damage multiplier as well as 180% damage reduction to our minions, which is I think huge. On our amulet, we are taking the reanimation, 60% multiplicative damage to our minions. I think it's huge. It's so good, I think. And then, like I mentioned, we are taking Fast Blood Ring. Reaper's cooldown reduction, Mage's Shadow, increased damage, and then we're taking the Bone Golem that does damage when it gets hit. Going over the skill tree real quick. We're not going to be using any basic ability. We're just taking these points so we can get to the next place. Taking Hued Flesh here. And then getting to the next place, we're taking the Mist. Obviously getting the armor buff here so we can put more damage towards from our Paragon. Obviously taking the Mastery options. We are not going to be using any Essence on this build, but just using that 1 point to get to the field by dead, which is going to be very important. We are taking the corpse explosion here. We're taking all of these passives, Mage's Mastery, more damage from when the enemy is cursed, that's Embrace, and then that's Approach. And then we have the Decrepify here as well, just the standard setup. We're going to be generating a lot of blood orbs. The healing is going to be very important to survive in this meta, especially in PvP, because damage is going to be very high. So we're going to be taking extra healing from here. We're going to be taking this one because we're going to be generating tons of corpses. We are looking to get a lot of Fortify because we are also going to run really high max life on this build just because we're PvP oriented. Then coming down here, we're taking the Golden Mastery, obviously, Army of the Dead, which is the best part of the Army of the Dead. If our minions die somehow in a fight, because we're going to be spamming this, we're just going to get them back immediately. And then we have Inspiring Leader here, Critical Chance, and then we're going to have our Hellbent Commander. Crit is capped in PvP, but the crit chance never hurts to get that initial multiplier. We are running Kalan's Edict here for the attack speed. Again, there's 2 caps to attack speed. This one goes, I believe, the same bucket as the gear. So we will have to min-max there once the season goes live. I have to review my stats there. Alright, let's talk about the PvE version as well. This is the build I'm going to be doing first in the live servers, working towards leveling and just try something new as the minions are being so strong. We may never get that again, so I want to take advantage of that in PvE as well. So pretty much the gear is the same here, nothing changes. One thing that I have made the adjustment that I realized is this is the what you want to run on your boots. Attacks reduces evade cooldown. The one interaction I was just talking about was the Sacrilegious Ring. As it consumes, it actually considers as an attack, so it will be constantly reducing the evade cooldown here. And this actually got buff. It's going to be 1.5 seconds, so we're going to be unstoppable all the time, which is really important now because we are not going to be running Mist in the PvE version of this build. So one thing that we need to be mindful of is that we're going to be generating tons of blood orbs, and we need to go around and pick those blood orbs up. So we need to be unstoppable, dodging through enemies, passing through them, not getting stuck, and get those blood orbs as well. That's going to be our main gameplay, which I think it's going to be fun because we're not going to be doing much damage. We're not going to be doing much casting. So we're just going to be playing around blood orbs, get the Army of the Dead up, casted, rinse and repeat. Book of the Dead setup is pretty much the same. I will be trying the blood golem obviously here to see how much of a damage difference that is. And that is the gear. Let's talk about the skill tree. Alrighty, skill tree is pretty much the same. One change that I mentioned actually is the Blood Mist. We are not going to be running Blood Mist anymore. So we can actually take the Corpse Tendrils here, and this will be our source of vulnerability, and this is how we're gonna pack and pull mobs in dungeons. So we're not gonna be running Mist. We're gonna be utilizing Corpse Tendrils in that skill slot, and gonna try and play and see how it feels. Maybe I'm gonna miss the Mist so much, and we'll go back to it and keep you guys posted. But this is the initial idea I am thinking. Another thing is with all the skill points we saved here, we are going to be filling up our fortified necrotic carapace, and then we're going to be putting bonded in essence to get our skeletal priest bonus. There are a lot of builds out there that I see with the minions using actually Shadow Blight. I tier crafted a build like that as well, but I am sort of tired of Shadow Blight being so meta in every build. And just from the PvP perspective, I hate the timer of this, especially when you're playing a minion-based build. You really can't combo or time your own combo with your minions. So the timer, if the uptime is not there in PvP, it's a problem. I know the uptime of Shadow Blight is gonna be really significant now, but I think there were some real weird interactions in PTR, especially skeletal warriors were proccing this and mages. So we will have to see how the Shadow Blight feels in the live server. It does feel kind of like a no-brainer choice because of the Shadow Mages. Now you can really keep the Shadow Blight uptime. And if that is the case, I have theory crafted a build for that. If I realize that I miss so much damage by not taking this and not putting Shadow Blight on the amulet or in the two-hander, I'm gonna be obviously making the swap, and there will be a few adjustments. But I really want to initially play without it and see how it feels, and just going with the Army of the Dead spam and getting this huge multiplier that way. For PvP, I can guarantee say that I'm not gonna be taking Shadow Blight here. I'm gonna be playing without the Shadow Blight in PvP, just because, like I said, the timer goes on and your golem does its damage in that. If it doesn't do its damage in that time window, if misses, even the uptime is significantly high, it is still a thing that it doesn't line up. So I'm gonna try playing without it in PvP. In PvE, I'm gonna test and see how it feels. If it comes down to it, I will also have a tier crafting using Shadow Blight as well to get that billions of damage that we have always been dreamed of. So we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, I think that's all I wanted to cover. I know some of you guys are really waiting for a build planner. It is coming. I'm working on it. I'm gonna add a Paragon board as well as what tempering and affixes I'm gonna be running on the gear. That's gonna come out pretty soon. I just wanted to provide this before the season starts. There's so many great build guides out there now on regarding how to play Summoner build. Really good Paragon boards and really good gearing options. So I'm sure those will get the job done. But in the meantime, at least you guys have an idea of what I have in mind going into Season 4 on how to approach Summoner Mini Necromancer build to play in PvP. This is what I've been theory crafting. This is sort of what I tested in PTR. And this is what I'm going to be doing. So hopefully this is somewhat helpful. And I have more videos planned coming up before the season launch. I'm going to be releasing a tier list of PvP classes, which classes S tier in PvP, A tier, B tier, C tier, so on and so forth. And then we're going to be releasing our highlight video from season 3. A lot of you guys send your submissions to me to be featured, so I'm really excited to make that compilation. That's going to be coming out. And then obviously we're going to be having more gameplay examples. We're going to be having more build planners and build guides coming up as well. But until then, Lord Sawyer here. Thank you for checking this video out. I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.